How's everybody doing? Good. I just came off the flu last week, so I'm going to try not to show you how scary my cough sounds right now. My name's Corinne. I am the founder of Skida Headwear. We're based down on Pine Street, right around the corner. And we've been in that space for about 2 years and have been in Burlington for 4 now. And I'm going to tell you about my little snippets of my story because I think that's the best advice I can offer is through my experiences. And I'm going to start out by telling an analogy, which I like to relate to what starting a business I think can be like. So there are 2 ways you can start a fire. You can, if you find yourself out in the woods and you're cold, you can pull together some little twigs and you get a match and you start, or maybe you don't have a match, maybe you start rubbing the twigs together, you get some pine needles, some dry leaves, you get a spark, you get some smoke, you start blowing on it, you add a little stick, you add another stick, you start blowing and you fuel the fumes a little bit. You get some flames in there, you throw a bigger stick on there, you throw, maybe you're still working on your little teepee. You put a log on there and it tips over and you say, oh no, shoot, put that back, and you fix your teepee. You put a bigger stick and soon enough you'll get ready for that log and you put the log on, you put another log on and you've got this pretty sturdy fire going. It could burn for the whole night. The other way you can build a fire is you get your twigs and sticks and you get a whole pile of stuff, sticks, logs, paper, trash, and you pour a bunch of kerosene on it and you light a match and you have yourself a fire. Now the analogy there I like to relate the way I started Skida to the first analogy. Starting really small with some twigs and seeing what works and trying little things, and over time you get a pretty blazing fire. And that's been an analogy that I like to use just in kind of reminding myself that where we've gone, or the history and the story that we've taken on, is really just an experiment and learning from what works and what doesn't. So I don't know if we kind of discussed the story through Sam, but I started making hats when I was a Nordic skier at Burke Mountain Academy. So I was 16 years old, and I had just started cross-country skiing as a high schooler, which was really exciting. And as an alpine skier, I grew up skiing. I had a feel for the snow, and I jumped right into Nordic with a lot of zest and eager to learn the ropes of the sport and the community. And as a high schooler, part of that is figuring out what to wear. And I remember hats. I was having a really hard time finding the right hat, and I made some hats over a rainy Christmas break with my mom, and we had 4 girls in our team, and we went to the ski race in Rumford, Maine, which is out there. He wouldn't think that you could catch a trend in northern Maine, but we wore these hats to this race, and the 4 of us and our coach Karina, and afterwards some girls came by from Stratton. They were from southern Vermont, and one of them, my friend May, was like, "Hey, Corinne, do you think you can make us some of those hats?" And I said, "Yeah, sure." She goes, "I like that purple one, and maybe the pink one for Sophie, and et cetera." So that next weekend, I brought their hats to the race, and they, were psyched, snatched them. I think they gave me $10, and then 6 of us were wearing the hats at the races. And then after that race, their parents came over and bought the rest that we had in the back of the Burke Mountain Academy van. And the next weekend was at Traps, I believe, in Stowe, and we had a few extras, and then we had some swatches of fabric that we had bought at the May store in Lyndonville. so they could pick their swatch for the next one. And so weekend by weekend, we started kind of moving our hats. And you could recognize the Burke Mountain Academy tent because there was this clothesline with hats on them, really colorful. And that really started the snowball that I talked about. And the parents came in and helped buy them for the kids. And so it was the Nordic ski community that really kind of kicked this off, and it happened so organically and slowly. That's kind of the big takeaway from that starting point was the ski races. And it's so cool because I love going to Nordics. I don't race anymore, but when I go to the races, it's like nothing's really changed. And it's a really sweet reminder of the really awesome, contagious energy that happens at those races. So I came back to Burke, and I remember I took a math class with my favorite teacher. Her name was Viv, and she kind of caught wind that I was working on this, and she was willing to drive me down to the East Burke Sports Shop, where her husband was a bike mechanic, and I had a little shoebox full of hats, and we were like, all right, yeah, like maybe the cyclists could wear these under their helmets. And so we roll in, and I had my shoebox, and it's a whole bunch of guys sitting there at the counter, like, what do you want? And so I come in, and I said, hey, yeah, I got these hats, and I think maybe we sold them for like $20 at the races. Maybe we could sell them to you for 15, and you could sell them for 20 and make $5 off them. And they were like, no, that's not how wholesale works. and that was excuse me. Oh no, that was a rude awakening of, okay, this is so wholesale. Classic markup is sell them for 15, they sell them for 30. Our hats sell for $30 now. That was my first run-in with a store, and I had some classmates at Burke. Burke's a really small school, so we all, chip in. And I had some classmates whose parents were affiliated with ski shops. There was a sports shop in Woodstock, Vermont, a shop in Lake Placid, and I think there was another one in Vermont that we got connected with, and that was the start of our wholesale business. And slowly we'd get inquiries that said, oh, I saw your hats at the Mountaineer in Lake Placid. I have a shop or the Mountaineer is in Keene Valley, and this gal's shop was in Lake Placid. And so, it kind of trickled out from there. And at this point, I was just graduating from Burke and heading into Middlebury College. And the year I was applying to college, I remember, so Burke is a school without grades, and that alternative education, my college application had, no grades. So it's like, all right, I've been working on this thing. It's called Skida, and we make these hats. So I sent in a supplementary piece that had pictures of my hats laid out on this bench, and a link to this blog that I had made that was pictures of swatches of fabrics that we had, and you could comment on the blog and write which style you wanted, and then you would have to mail me a check, and then we would mail you your hat. And it worked, and that was 2008, 2009, and then 2010 I created a website and had a URL, like a domain name. I think it was skidasport.blogspot.com, and then as much as Skida evolved, it also evolved very much with the internet and accessibility to e-commerce, and how you can, nowadays you can start any kind of web store and sell anything. And you still could then, but you had to be a little more creative. And the website really evolved from the blog to then just a plain web page. And then I had integrated some sort of form where you could enter in the same thing, what print you wanted, what style, your address, and then you had to send me a check, and then we would mail your hat. And that was the progression. And then we had our e-commerce business. So the Skida today is built on a number of different channels of distribution, but as we call them today. But they really were founded on these kind of scrappy ways of just kind of falling into moving a product and showing something to someone, and if they liked it, they could buy it. And that was the origin of creating these kind of more substantial and very complex metrics and aspects of our business. So through college, I worked on this website, and I remember stumbling upon Shopify, which is an e-commerce platform, and that was like, oh, the holy grail. And we still use it today. We're, I think, 5 or 6 years going strong. And so that was my big project in college. And I also was working on Skida +1, which was a really big motion to create this kind of social dimension to the company. And Skida +1 was founded because over a summer, and over the summers through school, it was kind of my time away from school, so I was able to focus a lot of energy on the website and planning out prints and thinking about what we wanted to work on, having the time to work on something that would be then kind of used or executed in the winter. So Skida +1 came to me when a really sweet man emailed me, and he said, "Hi, Corinne, I wanted to buy a dozen of hats to, my wife has been undergoing chemotherapy treatment at Norris Cotton Cancer Center, and she has about 6-year hats, and everyone loves them, and I'd love to buy a dozen and have them shipped to the cancer center." And I was like, wow, that's great. I had a friend in high school whose mom was undergoing chemotherapy, and he was on the Nordic team at Green Mountain Valley School, so we had sent his mom some hats, so we knew that there was some interest there, and it was a product that was really great for that purpose. And so Bill Pring, this is the man that emailed me, and he reached out, and we said, yeah, great, and send us the contact of the nurse you work with at Norris Cotton. So we sent them the hats on behalf of Bill, and that was the start of the Skida +1 program, and that really facilitated this kind of open communication between somebody that wanted to provide a benefit to patients, and then being able to send it on behalf of them. And now we operate it out of a online customer program, so you can enter a promo code, and we have 10 participating cancer centers, and the hats are donated on behalf of a customer. So it's kind of a joint effort, which is really sweet. And the other project that I worked on in college was discovering this cashmere industry, and that spiraled post-college when I came back and was looking into something new and wanted to add something to our product line. And so I went back to Nepal 2 years after and met with those cashmere factories that we still work with today, and developed some hats and brought them back. And it's definitely this has been the biggest learning curve for me, is launching a new product line that's really expensive and really luxurious. And why, it's like you hear cashmere and it's a really soft, delicate fabric and textile, and it adds a lot of value to our whole brand, because it shows that we are about quality and we are about this local manufacturing thing, which is not local to us, but it's local to this industry or to this community and country that I visited, and I keep coming back to them, so it still feels local. And I think I'm winding down, but I just wanted to end on the takeaway. And I came back to Middlebury a year or two after I graduated for homecoming, and I gave a talk, and Liz, who's sitting over there, the prompt was, what's your big idea? What's your next big idea? And it was proposed to creatives, people who are doing creative pursuits outside of or beyond Middlebury. And at that point, my big idea was to stay small. And that was my big takeaway from all of this is start small and stay small. And that's the best way to grow sustainably and to continue it. Okay. Thanks, Sam.